some of the most beautiful scents ever made, are now illegal to create. I'm not talking about obscure bottles you've never heard of. I'm talking about legends. Chanel No. 5, Dior Poison, Guerlain Shalimar, perfumes that defined entire eras, perfumes worn by icons. And they've been reformulated, restricted, in some cases banned outright. Not because they stopped smelling beautiful, but because the ingredients that made them unforgettable were dangerous. Stay with me. There's more to uncover. Here's something they don't tell you when you're standing in a department store testing perfumes on your wrist. Fragrance is one of the least regulated industries in the world. In the United States, perfume companies aren't required to disclose what's actually inside the bottle. That word on the label, fragrance, can hide dozens, sometimes hundreds of ingredients. And most of them, you'll never know their names. But in Europe, things are different. The European Union has spent decades identifying and banning ingredients that pose real risks: allergens, carcinogens, reproductive toxins. One by one, they've been pulled from formulas. And when that happens, the perfume changes, sometimes subtly, sometimes completely. So today, we're going behind the bottle, to the ingredients that were too dangerous to keep, to the perfumes that were forced to evolve, and to the question you should be asking yourself: what am I really wearing? Welcome to the Fragrance Affair. Let's start with the most famous perfume in history. Chanel No. 5. Created in 1921 by Ernest Beau for Coco Chanel, it was revolutionary. Aldehydes, jasmine, rose, and at its heart, oak moss. Oak moss is a natural extract harvested from lichen that grows on oak trees. It smells earthy, deep, almost forest-like. It gave Chanel No. 5 its signature richness, that grounding warmth beneath all that floral brightness. But oak moss contains compounds called atronol and chloroatronol, and those compounds, highly allergenic. By the early 2000s, dermatologists were reporting increasing cases of contact dermatitis linked to perfumes containing oak moss, rashes, sensitization, reactions that got worse with repeated exposure. In 2013, the International Fragrance Association, IFRA, and the EU slashed the allowable concentration of oak moss to almost nothing. Chanel had no choice. They reformulated. The new Chanel No. 5? Still iconic, still Chanel, but not the same. Perfume collectors know this. Vintage bottles, pre-2013 formulas, now sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. Because once oak moss was restricted, a piece of perfume history disappeared. And here's the thing. Chanel No. 5 isn't alone. Dior's Miss Dior, Guerlain's Mitsuko. Any perfume built on a Kipper structure, oak moss was the backbone. And when it was restricted, an entire family of fragrances had to be reimagined. Now let's talk about a perfume that lived up to its name, Dior Poison, released in 1985. Bold, intoxicating, unapologetically powerful. Tuberose, spice, amber, berries. It wasn't a perfume you wore quietly. It was a statement, a weapon. But the vintage formula? It was also a cocktail of restricted ingredients. Isoeugenol, a compound found in clove oil. Known allergen. Lyrol, a synthetic lily note, officially called hydroxycitronellal, banned in 2020 for reproductive toxicity. Coumarin, a sweet vanilla-like molecule, restricted for potential liver toxicity. One by one, these ingredients were flagged, and Dior reformulated multiple times. The poison you can buy today? Softer, smoother, safer. But talk to anyone who wore the original and they'll tell you it's not the same perfume. The edge is gone. That sharp, almost aggressive beauty, dulled. And that's the trade-off. Safety versus artistry, regulation versus risk. You can't have both, not always. In 1925, Jacques Guerlain creates Shalimar, inspired by the Mughal gardens of India. named after the gardens of Shah Jahan, the emperor who built the Taj Mahal for his wife. It was romance-bottled, vanilla, bergamot, iris, leather, incense, and synthetic musk. Specifically nitro musks, musk ketone, musk xylene. These were laboratory-created molecules designed to mimic the smell of natural animal musk. And they worked beautifully. They were potent, long-lasting, and gave Shalimar that deep, sensual warmth. But here's what perfumers didn't know in 1925. Nitro musks don't break down easily. They accumulate in fatty tissue, in the liver, in breast milk. Studies in the 1980s and 90s found them in human blood samples, and toxicology research linked them to potential carcinogenic effects. By the late 1990s, they were being phased out across Europe. Shalimar was reformulated. The magic? Diluted. The longevity? Reduced. And once again, collectors mourned. Because the Shalimar that exists today is not the Shalimar that captivated the world for 70 years. March 2020. The European Union bans an ingredient called lilial. You've probably never heard of it, but if you've ever worn a perfume with a fresh, clean, lily-of-the-valley note, you've smelled it. Lilial, chemically known as butylphenyl methylpropionyl, was everywhere. Creed Aventus, Givenchy Amarige, Lancôme Hypnose, Mugler Alien, Paco Rabanne Lady Million. It was cheap, effective, beautiful. And in animal studies, it showed reproductive toxicity. The European Chemicals Agency reviewed the data. Lilial was classified as a Category 1B reproductive toxicant, meaning presumed to cause harm to fertility or unborn children. IFRA followed the EU's lead, and overnight, hundreds of perfumes had to be reformulated. Creed Aventus lost some of its brightness. The crisp, fresh opening, slightly muted. Alien became a little flatter. That otherworldly shimmer, less pronounced. Lady Million, softer, less sharp. Fragrance communities noticed immediately. Forum posts, Reddit threads, YouTube videos dissecting the changes. Because for fragrance lovers, this wasn't just about safety. It was about losing something irreplaceable. And here's what makes this complicated. The ban was based on animal studies. There's no confirmed evidence of harm in humans at the concentrations used in perfumes. But the EU operates on a precautionary principle. If there's risk, even potential risk, it gets restricted. So the question becomes, where do you draw the line between safety and experience, between caution and artistry? Here's what I want you to understand. These reformulations, they're not about conspiracy. They're not about corporations cutting corners to save money. In most cases, reformulating costs more, a lot more. This is about science catching up to artistry. For 100 years, perfumers created with ingredients they believed were safe. And many of them were, but some weren't. And as toxicology advanced, as we learn more about allergens, about bioaccumulation, about long-term exposure, the industry had to adapt. Does that mean the perfumes we love today are less beautiful? No. Does it mean they're different? Yes, and if you're chasing vintage bottles for their authentic formulas, understand what you're buying. You're not just buying nostalgia. You're buying ingredients that were removed for a reason. The world of fragrance is more complex than most people realize. It's chemistry, it's art, it's history, it's regulation. And navigating it requires more than just following trends. It requires understanding what's in the bottle and why it matters. That's what we do here. At The Fragrance Affair, we go deeper. Luxury, science, and truth in every bottle. If that's what you're looking for, stay with me. There's always more to uncover.